The Neil Diamond Musical, A Beautiful Noise, the uplifting true story, featuring all the songs you love from his Grammy Award-winning career. October 21st through 26th at Des Moines Civic Center. On sale at dmpa.org.
What is up? It is the Beat Reporters. All fresh off of a bye week. How was your bye week, gentlemen? Are you relaxed, refreshed?
All we want to do on a bye week, Jake, is just watch football. That's all sports reporters want to do when they're not covering games.
I was successful in that.
I also have to recover from sports hernia surgery, so all good on that front.
Yeah, I guess my bad, Rob. You didn't have the most relaxing
relaxation.
bye week. So hopefully the next one following the Colorado game is the full bye week experience.
I appreciate it.
We are here in the Northwest Bank studios, as always. We're virtual today. We're going to be in person soon. I promise the studio is almost done. We've got a lot of our signed jerseys getting framed as we speak. Should be done in the coming weeks, and then we'll be bringing you the Beat Reporters in person most weeks, which is fun, but we also do just a good job virtually. We are brought to you by Kelderman Manufacturing. Jeff Kelderman handling all of your manufacturing needs down in Oskaloosa, whether it comes to a truck, a motorcycle, signage for your yard, signage for a room. Kelderman does it all. He's also a content creator over on YouTube. You can check out his YouTube channel, Kelderman Trucks. He is a unique soul. I'm going to pull up what his YouTube channel looks like. Just a whole lot of trucks right there. And it's him talking about the trucks. It's him doing work to them. He's got this, if you look 2 weeks ago, he's got a 40-minute video of him hitting up the Sturgis motorcycle event up in South Dakota, which is somewhere he fits in. He's like the king of Sturgis, actually. People fit in with Kelderman. He doesn't fit in with them. Kelderman Manufacturing, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the man behind the name Kelderman Manufacturing, you can hit up his YouTube page, and he's just a great guy. I can't wait to see him this Friday, Saturday up in the RV Village ahead of the Arizona game. And we're going to talk a lot about the Arizona game, but we got to start with some basketball news. Some surprising news out of Ames as Tamin Lipsey suffers a grade 2 MCL sprain in practice on Tuesday. That'll set him out 4 to 6 weeks. Tough break. Initial thoughts when the news hit our inbox.
Well, is it surprising, though, Jake, given it's Tamin Lipsey?
No.
A little tongue-in-cheek there. I mean, obviously, it's the last thing you want to see, right? With a guy who's been banged up so much. And, of course, Coach Easy Otzelberger, Tamin himself, have basically talked about the way that he plays. He's never going to be 100% healthy. Now, this is not – you don't like to see it when it comes to like in a news release form, right, in an email too. It's kind of like, uh-oh, right? But it looks like, I guess if there's any time to do it, this is not that bad of a time because the time frame sets him up to be back in relatively full strength based on how Tamin throws his body around and pretty early in the season. So I guess that's the silver lining there. But yeah, again, Tamin Lipsey banged up again. Not ideal, but I guess part of the deal you get with the package that is Tamin Lipsey, a hard-nosed competitor.
My mind immediately went to, what does this mean for Killian Toure? This freshman that we've heard so much about. And maybe this is a benefit for Killian as he gets more reps, you'd assume, in practice and kind of gets to experiment with being perhaps the guy running Iowa State's offense. So much better happening now than in February, as we saw last year. Guys, I mean, Iowa State last year, they got to number 2 in the nation right around January 1, and nobody cared when March came around because it doesn't matter what your team looks like in January, what your team looks like in December, what it looks like in the opener against FDU. If this stretch at the start of the season helps Killian Toure and some of these guys get ready for March, then I think that's something that Iowa State fans will look back on as a blessing.
Well, and the good news as well is, I guess this isn't good news, but good news for Toure is Iowa State plays Creighton in an exhibition game in 23 days, 22 days if you're listening to this on Thursday. So I would be shocked if Tamin plays in that. It's a little bit out of the time frame as well. So if I had to guess, you're going to have true freshman Killian Torrey running the point against one of the best teams in America year in, year out. So it'll be a good opportunity, one, for fans to see this freshman guard get a lot of minutes, and it'll also be good for him to have experience going against the Blue Jays. And the same could go for Northwestern. I know that's a week later. It'd be a little more likely for Tamin to be back for that, but at the same time, if you don't need to rush back for a game that doesn't count, I'm going to guess TJ Otzelberger's not going to do that. So a lot of opportunities for Torrey and Jamarian Bateman as well, and Cade Kelderman too, who got some run down the stretch last year and is on scholarship now. I'm guessing we'll see a good mix of those three guys on the ball.
In the moment in the schedule where you'd really like to have Tamin Lipsey back full strength is that Thanksgiving Feast Week tournament.
Yes.
Players Area Championship, St. John's, and Creighton again on that schedule. We got the full schedule yesterday. Kind of an exciting day that got covered up by all sorts of random Big 12 football news.
Look at that.
But we finally got a basketball schedule, guys, and I can't wait.
It's a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet in
It's
February,
amazing.
no doubt about it. Yeah.
That stretch. Well, so let's break down the schedule a little bit. So everyone looks at the stretch from Valentine's Day to the 2nd of March, and that's understandable. But what I look at January. One, what a soft home schedule. So automatic 4-0. I don't care. Automatic.
Yep.
I'll go on the record now and say that. But two, kind of boring for us. Like we're just going to be fiending for Baylor, Kansas, Houston, Tech at home in February. Like this is why we do the job. It's those days when you can feel the buzz of Hilton Coliseum when you're in the Des Moines Metro on a game like that. The snow is all over the ground. It's probably going to be 5 degrees outside. That is my personal favorite time of the year, even though February is easily the worst month out of the year. I don't want to skip football because the team's 4-0, and it's also going to be a pretty incredible atmosphere on Saturday night. But man, if I could somehow cover football and then just time travel to Valentine's Day, I'm in.
Well, look at the road games in that first stretch too. I mean, you look at the what should be layups when you factor in Hilton as a home court advantage, with the first 4. But at Baylor, at Kansas, back to back, and at Cincinnati, tough place to play always. Oklahoma State, traditionally a very tough place to play for Iowa State. That's reversed over the last several years. And then Kansas State, which is always, yeah, exactly. I mean, just in general, it's reversed. Which is always a thorny place for Iowa State. So you have those, what look like breather games at home. They don't always turn out to be that way. And then just pretty jarring ones on the road where you haven't had a whole lot of success, or you have a tradition of not having success for a long time. So daunting schedule, if that's what you like. That's what makes Big 12 basketball, and it's nice to see the number of games and the challenging number of games for sure.
Ben, when you look at this schedule, if you could pick any road game to go to, where are you going?
That's a great question, Jake. I mean, I'm a sucker for Allen Fieldhouse. I think it'd be a lot of fun to get back there and maybe see if Iowa State can. That game was bad last year, guys. Like
that
Iowa
sucked.
State, that could have been pinpointed as maybe a sign of trouble down the road.
Yep.
So I think we talk about kind of the light first portion of Oklahoma State's of Iowa State's Big 12 schedule, and maybe that at Kansas game is the game where we get to see a little bit of the writing on the wall in terms of what this team could be, and just kind of to shake some of those memories out from last year where Iowa State went up there and got blown out.
I'm going at BYU down the stretch because I want to experience a game there. Was working with CW on his book. There's a chapter, I don't know if I can tease this or not, but I'm going to do it anyway. There's a chapter about the game with the DeAndre Kane eye poke game, the Melvin Edgem flipping the bird game, Iowa State. I don't want to ruin the suspense. Just a great college basketball game there in Provo. And I've experienced a football game there. And just to see those fans morph from the battle, hey, good luck to all you guys, to like, hey! in the arena. I mean, that's that'd be something to see. Again, I've seen Allen Fieldhouse a little bit more times than Ben, but I think I totally agree with Ben. That's going to be a big bellwether game, as it was last year. That's when you couldn't put the ball in the basket at all, and that would look to be, alarm bells going off there. But I'd just be excited to see that environment. You look at Arizona too; haven't gone there before. We know what their tradition is, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in and a little CW book plug that's coming down the road, not too far down the road.
My number one is Arizona. I'm already going. I might book the flight tonight because my childhood best friend lives out there, and I haven't visited him since he moved. So I'm just gonna knock 2 birds out with 1 stone, and I'm gonna go check out Caleb Love's Revenge, and also get to take a little warm weather trip. Although beginning of March has been pretty warm the last couple of years, so maybe it won't hit quite like it would on January 20th, but I'm excited for that. Overall, we'll move on to football, but I like how the schedule sets up because you do have that brutal non-con stretch where it'll be Mississippi State, Creighton, St. John's, Iowa, Purdue. Like, those are 5 really challenging games, and we'll learn a lot about the team, and the team will learn a lot about itself. But then it's going to be, I'm not going to call it a month and a half off, but you're going to have a very soft start to the Big 12 where you can maybe rack up an 8-2 start or a 9-1, something like that, before you get into the meat of the schedule. And if I remember correctly, that's kind of what it was like 2 years ago on the team that was a 2 seed. They started Big 12 play and didn't get tested a ton at the start, and they really figured it out. And once they started playing the ranked teams, then they were in full form. So I'm pumped for basketball season, but football season's still here. And before we talk football, I want to tell you about a new sponsor that's on board. It is Farm Story Meats, and we all know the importance of where our food comes from, but sometimes it can be impossible to tell. Ray and Jess Schmidt from the Farm Story Meats are looking to change that. Farm Story Meats guarantees the origin of each cut meat coming from local Iowa family farms. Their family raises certified Chester white pork, and they work with neighbors and friends to raise grass-fed and Angus beef, pasture-raised poultry, and even bison. Farm Story Meats is an online business based in Ames, and they offer free deliveries to Central Iowa, Ames, Ankeny, Des Moines, and can ship anywhere in the United States of America. Ray's parents have been perfecting their animals' meat quality for over half a century, treating each animal humanly and free of antibiotics or added hormones. That's just great. Ray's a former Cyclone and is a big supporter, he's a former Cy and a big supporter of what we do here at Cyclone Fanatic and Iowa State Athletics. Ray and Jess are both proud alumni of the Ivy College of Business. They also sponsor some stuff here in Iowa, or on Cyclone Fanatic and other various Iowa State entrepreneur groups. They've also had customers like President Winterstein, Dean Spalding, and even the great Chris Williams, and so many more. Orders can be placed at the meat shop page on farmstorymeats.com, and you can get a seasonal subscription that gets you the best cuts for that time of year. You can get a themed meat bundle like the tailgating box, or you can customize an order, and you're going to be buying your tailgating meat anyway, so you might as well do it and support local farmers and a local startup and get just a better quality product. Again, that is farmstorymeats.com. We want to thank them for coming on board here at Cyclone Fanatic. So let's start with another injury, one that we knew about before yesterday, but got a little more clarity on. Kyle Conradi, not done for the year, according to Matt Campbell, said it doesn't seem to be a long-term deal, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be back Saturday or maybe the couple Saturdays after that. So it's Chase Smith, the freshman walk-on from North Scott, who will be handling the place-kicking duties. I think my mind initially goes to, how does this affect what Taylor Mauser does, what Rocco Beck does, when you don't have a guy that you trust to kick a 63-yard field goal?
I asked Matt Campbell that. hey, what does it change with your analytics, with your feel for the game? Chase Smith, as you discussed, Jake, has a long of 42. That's not quite 63, so it does change the math, I think, on a lot of those decisions. Campbell didn't give me a specific number or a range where he feels comfortable with kicking. He said it comes down to a lot of what's going on in the game with the wind and, just feel. A lot of factors go into those decisions to play, but gosh, man, you have to think that it does change things. I mean, maybe expect the Cyclones to be a little bit more aggressive on fourth down in the middle of the field. If they feel like there's a situation where you could pin Arizona's offense deep, you maybe have to take that and trust your defense a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to have a ripple effect. And can we take a moment and just fully appreciate how cagey our friend, our head coach Matt Campbell is with these things? Probably. Kyle probably won't be able. I think we can always say that's kind of a code that you can count on Kyle not playing. Yeah. not playing. But it is notable that according to Campbell, it's not a long-term thing, because we'd heard, of course, lots of things via social media and all that this could be a several-week issue. And who knows, stuff changes, but that would certainly be helpful. But then again, Kyle Converter came out of nowhere, not to Iowa State, because they were talking about hitting the long field goals in practice before. And what Campbell said about Chase is he's been consistent, and they really like what he's been doing. Not so much talking about, the booming leg that Converter was already known for behind the scenes. So, but I think we are going to see more aggressive play calling at times. I think we're going to see more conservative play calling at times. Again, it's going to be down and distance, spot of the field, time of the game. And he's still got a really good punter back there in Tyler Perkins, who's having a heck of a year. And, he's probably tongue in cheek here, but a lot of the limelight for him has been holding the football for Kyle to kick long field goals and game-winning field goals. He's pretty good at pinning teams down inside the 10, and I think we'll see those situations crop up as needed as well. And he's certainly capable of helping the team, create a long field.
Yeah, I'm no kicking expert. I don't know exactly what Chase Smith brings to the table, but if I had a goal or an expectation for him, it's make those 40 yards and in, make your extra points, and that's kind of all you can count on. If he gives you anything more than that, if he's got more of a leg than we've been led to believe, perfect. But I think you just need a kicker that can hit from 40 and in, because if you're at 4th and 12 at the 16-yard line, you don't want to go for that. You want to take the points. But now, if you're 4th and 2 at the 30, I think maybe there's times where you just send Conradi out there because you trust him. Now I think that's almost automatically a go-for-it situation, and that will change. But the good news is that Taylor Mauser, Matt Campbell, Rocco Becht have had the entire bye week plus an extra week to prepare for this, and I'm sure that the playbook will reflect that on Saturday, and they're prepared for it.
One thing I would like to clear up, because I've had this question from some fans, is why weren't there any flyers this week on campus? Hey, if you're, do you want to kick for Iowa State? Come see us. I asked Matt Campbell that after the press conference, and he told me it's against the rules now. You can't do that, right? We saw a bunch of rule changes. Yep. Jake, you brought it up in the press conference, I think, where you talked about how beneficial it was that the roster limitations got overturned this summer. Otherwise, Chase Smith isn't a Cyclone, and Iowa State is in deep trouble right now.
That's a what if that we probably don't want to think about, because at that point you're probably going in-house to try and find someone on the team who maybe handled punting or kicking duties while in high school, or you're going to the media and hitting up Travis Hines to see if he's got eligibility left. That's going to be depending on how this season goes. If Iowa State wins a game because Chase Smith was able to go 2 for 2 from 35 yards, which isn't anything incredible, but if they're able to win a game because of that, we're going to look back and say, wow, that decision by the NCAA to not shrink the rosters from 120 to 105 maybe saved Iowa State's season. And what are the odds of 2 kickers getting hurt in the first 4 weeks? But that this is the situation the team's in, and they're lucky that they've got this Chase Smith who's capable.
Yeah, Campbell addressed that a little bit too, didn't he? Just being like, boy, he didn't want to even think about what kind of world that would be because of that. And that's where I think Hines asked him about it, and he just said, hey, you got eligibility, all that joking stuff. But joking aside, wasn't it looked like it was going to go down that road, though? Wasn't the judge trying to mandate that it goes down to 105, and then somehow they managed to get that out of there? Because, again, that's the last place you want to be. I mean, because if you can't count on extra points, I mean, it would certainly be exciting to cover a team that doesn't kick extra points or field goals, period, and goes for it all the time. But you're going to miss some points that way, no doubt about it. So, I mean, it's just I guess, example of just how in flux everything still remains, even though we feel like we're coming to a settling point. There's always stuff up in the air, for sure.
From the way I understand it, the players that were being cut were told in the spring because this was going to go down, and then the official ruling just never happened, and a month goes by, another month goes by, and then finally they overturn it. So I don't know specifically what those names were, but you're most likely looking at the freshman walk-ons that are probably not making the cut, and that's just a bummer. I hope that what is in place now stays in place, because Campbell made the great point of, NFL rosters are only 53-man, but they can pick up or drop anybody at any point throughout the season. If a team goes through 3 kickers in 5 weeks, you can call Matt Prater like the Bills did. You can, if your punter gets hurt, you can go find a punter in the XFL or on a practice squad. It's not possible in college. You've got what you got, and you can't add throughout the season. So definitely a good break for Iowa State when it comes to Chase Smith. And I think that segues real nice into our next topic, and it's Iowa State's success in close games dating back to the end of 2023 when Iowa State went on the road, beat Kansas State by a touchdown. Including that game, since that point, the Cyclones have won 9 of 10 one-score games. A lot of that, I'm sure, comes down to special teams. Rob, I know this is the story that you have been working on, and you were asking all the players and coaches about it yesterday. I'm going to play what Matt Campbell had to say in your response, and then I'll let you take it from there.
I think it's gone in ebbs and flows. I think when you look back to probably 17, 18, and probably 2020, we were really, really good in one-score games. I think the reality, fortunate or unfortunate, the life we live here, there's a lot of one-score games. So you're always going to live that. That's just how it goes. And the reality of it is the better we've been fundamentally and detailed enough to, win those games. And obviously there's been some tough moments where, we've been right there and couldn't make the play or weren't detailed enough in the moment to make the play. So I really don't. I think it really, I know I say this all the time, but we are in a world here at Iowa State that you're not getting, the human erasers that are just going to erase, let you play C football and win games. We're going to have to always play close to A football, and our detail's going to have to be spot on to win football games.
Yeah, I think it is remarkable the topsy-turvy ride it's been in one-score games and in the Campbell era. I mean, when you go back to 2017, I remember Coach Campbell telling me this and telling other people, they felt like they were kind of a bit ahead of schedule when they made that Liberty Bowl, won that in 2017 coming off the 3-win first season, because they got really, really good performances in those clutch situations to win those games. Now, were they mentally mature enough to understand with that success, you win 8 games for the first time in a long time, how they sustained it? They sort of did, and then, kind of treaded water for a little bit, and then 2000 happened with all the other elements, COVID and all that. But they were so good at that, and that's, I think, what put them ahead of schedule. 2020, very good at it again, obviously helped out by the fact that other than the Louisiana game, they were really buttoned up on the COVID protocols. And then 2021, the wheels started falling off. 2022, and I mean, you look at that season, how bizarre it was to lose all but one score game, and the one you win, you have a 99-yard drive at Iowa to win a one-score game. That team, people will look back at that team and say they could have reversed that 4-8. You really could have. You take a couple drops away and all of that. And now you're seeing it go the other way. I think there are a lot of factors. I think what players are telling me is the belief they have in each other is a lot stronger than it was back then. And I know they try to instill that, but that also has to mature on the vine, as it were. And I think that's really happened. And then you have those crops of senior leaders pop up year after year after year and feed into each other from junior to senior year. And you're seeing that belief transformed into trust and then performance. I still think we've got a lot to go. We've got a ways to go to see some A games this year. But Iowa State has, in those moments where they've had to produce A-type plays, they've done it to win 3 one-score games this season. And it's really a remarkable transformation. So I think the explanation is kind of simple, that experience, trust, faith in each other, but also you've got X-factor guys that just go out and win. Like what did Taylor Mauser say about Rocco Becht? If you make it easy for him, he's not very good. If you make it hard for him, he's really good. So I think Rocco stands front and center as a pillar for this renaissance in terms of winning these close games.
It's all I know, guys. All I've seen since I joined the beat at the start of last season is Iowa State winning these close games, which is such a reversal from the 2021 season that you bring up, Rob. And when Matt Campbell was asked about it, I think in Ireland, he said, look, it's because our guys are making plays, which I think when you really want to talk about how football games are won, let's not overcomplicate it. Guys are making plays. But the thing I point to is, okay, what has been the consistency in the last 2 seasons for Iowa State football? And I look to the triumvirate of Matt Campbell, Taylor Mauser, and Rocco Becht. And the play calling and the sequences and the trust that we've seen, the pop pass plays, just the clutchness from all these things. I think that's where the players believe in, is those leaders at the top. And I think that's the recipe that Iowa State's used to kind of flip the narrative, and find a lot of success.
Well, and also, you can talk about belief, and I believe in the guy to the left of me. I believed in the guy on the right. But when you actually see it happen in a game, not once, not twice, not 3 times, when you continue to see it over and over and over again from your quarterback, that belief, it just snowballs. Like, maybe sometimes to a fault. It's, it doesn't matter if we're down 3 heading into this final drive, or it doesn't matter if it's a tie game. Rocco will figure it out. I'm joking. I think that's maybe how fans feel. I don't think the team feels that. But there is a point about maybe good arrogance of, we have so much faith in Rocco, and that faith spills over to the rest of the guys, that helps them make those plays in the big moments. And I truly do think a lot of that can just be traced to Rocco, not only his poise and his leadership, but the proof and the evidence of him delivering in the biggest moments time and time again.
Well,
you have no choice but to believe it. If you've seen it so many times, you have no choice but to believe it.
Well, he's tied for active lead among FBS quarterbacks in fourth quarter game-winning drives. Luke Altmaier at Illinois 7, Rocco Becht, Iowa State 7. Obviously, 6 of those have come in the last 2 seasons. So, and 2 already this season. So, I mean, you've seen that. I think another thing to point out, in addition to the close game, however you want to explain it, Iowa State being one of the least penalized teams over the last couple of years, I think ties into that too. How many drives did we see that led to close losses where it was pre-snap penalty that really, really doomed them and prevented them from getting points? Or it's just a bad penalty at the worst possible time, whether it be a personal foul, defensive hold, something like that crippled them in a close game. We're seeing that not happen. We're seeing it happen to other teams instead, and I think that's a factor as well, beyond just the human factor of Rocco having it and the trust and all that other stuff.
Yeah, definitely a big reason for Iowa State's success in close games. Let's talk a little bit about the Wildcats now. If you haven't listened to the CW pod on Iowa Everywhere with Jeff Woody from this week, go do it right now. It is better than, I think, any Arizona context than maybe anyone in the state of Iowa can give you. Woody works as an analyst now for ESPN, and he called an Arizona game, spent hours with head coach Brent Brennan, coordinators alike. He gives great insight to how Arizona has turned it around to a 3-0 start. Rob, you posed this question. What is more scary for Iowa State on Saturday? Is it the Arizona offense or their defense?
I think both are going to present the challenges, but I think it's the defense, especially when learning what Woody said about their 4-2-5 scheme, what it goes back to. I think he said it was the Brian Urlacher days at New Mexico. Coaching tree leads to these guys believing in that, where they just try to create a lot of chaos. They don't even think about gaps, which seems crazy. They just want to, up front, they want to stunt, they want to twist and basically thwart any blocking scheme you want to throw at them. So that helps them in the run game. It also leaves them susceptible to big plays, but they've got really good playmakers on that defense. And I think we all know Noah Fafita, what he can do. He's added the element with his legs, which I think he had to do, with McMillan gone and all that. That's a really unique defense. And we saw when Iowa State kid came up with the post at Akron a number of years ago and scrapped everything and came up with the stack with John Haycock, that once you come up with something that's innovative or isn't used by that many people, which in this case I think is the case with this 4-2-5 scheme, it's a tough thing to adjust to. And I think it can be tough against the run. I think it can be tough against the pass. And you look at Arizona, I think they're 7th nationally in total defense, so they've been tough against the run and the pass. And a guy like Genesis Smith being the captain of that 4-2-5, he's a playmaker. They call him, I wrote this in my 5 players to know, they call him their chief energy officer. So Genesis Smith, safety Genesis Smith is a scholarship guy making a lot of plays. I think he's their leading tackler as well, but he's the Conrad Hawley, making the Iowa State men's basketball comp, but also a guy that just makes plays out there, interceptions, had 3 last year, 1 of 5, I think, with 1 this year. So I think the defense is more scary. But at the same time, Iowa State's linebackers are really going to be tested with the guys like Mahdi and a 3-headed monster of tailbacks at Arizona, and then throwing Fafita career-high 48 yards in that win against Kansas State, and they needed every one of them. 2 rushing touchdowns, I believe. I think this looked like, I know it's on paper a 1-touchdown game. I think this is a pick'em game. I think Arizona's really turned the corner to that point, and we'll see. Turnovers are going to be always the factor. The things that swing games are always going to swing games and make close games, 2-score games and that sort of thing. But I'm really impressed with what Arizona does and what they've been able to do, especially as Jeff explains the hardship they faced when Fish left and put them behind the 8 ball with teams poaching all their players a couple years ago. Now they've got guys in place that, as Coach Campbell says, love to play football and are experienced and good at it.
Yeah. Conrad, sorry, man, you missed the trademark boat, I guess. But I also...
He could go for infringement. Yeah, he could maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he had the football. Was he the CEO of Kansas football? I wonder. Maybe there's already been a CEO of Big 12 football, and here comes another one. But Rob, I came into this game thinking that Arizona's offense would be a little bit scarier because they lose Ted McMillan to the Panthers, 1st-round draft pick, and still their offense looks improved. Their offense looks like what we thought Arizona's offense would look like that first year in the Big 12. Remember kind of the narrative of, hey, Arizona could come in this league and kind of run it, and it was just ultra disappointing. But, Fafita, you have faith in him, in what the offense has done this year. But, man, after listening to that pod with Woody, guys, this Arizona defense is something that I'm going to be so locked into. With the negative plays that they force, it kind of sounds like they have some Iowa State defense in them with the way their back 5, this secondary, runs up and hits guys in the running game. So I can't wait to watch it. That does scare me. I think Iowa State's going to have to pop some big plays. Look at Brett Eskildson. Maybe Abu Sama, is kind of the home run hitter in this game. So I'm really looking forward to watching this Arizona defense, and maybe that's the unit that kind of scares you.
Yeah, I just think the novelty of the Arizona defense is what scares me the most. And You mentioned the Iowa State comparison. It's very different fundamentally in the fact that Arizona doesn't play with fundamentals. They're just trying to smoke you. But it is similar in when it was created back in 2017 that pretty much nobody had seen the 3-3-5. And that's how Iowa State was able to stop like a TCU offense that was incredible. They held them to 0 points. Their only points in that game came off of a kickoff return. So that's, I guess, what scares me is you compare it to that 2017 Iowa State defense, and all these OCs are just like, I don't know how to prepare for this. So I think Iowa State's probably in a similar position. The good news is the bye week probably means a little more for Iowa State than it does for Arizona. You have 14 days to prepare for this novel defense, and Arizona has 14 days to prepare for you. But at the same time, I think Iowa State is a little more straightforward in how they're going to play the game of football. I know Mauser has the tricks up his sleeve, but it is still a more standard football team at this point as the 3-down lineman has become more common across the sport.
Yeah, I think Arizona's allowing 11 yards average less per game than the University of Iowa's defense. I think that should tell you how good this unit's been and how much they've been able to confuse teams. Granted, Weber State is, I think, the game that Woody said he did, and that's a once proud FCS program trying to work its way back up in the playoffs, and no great shakes in week one. Kansas State we've seen struggle, but then they, like Iowa State, have that Dublin hangover, and they faced it as Woody mentioned down in Arizona with a short week and a late night game at weird body clock. Iowa State faced it in 100-degree heat and Jonesboro, Arkansas. I think you can flush those Dublin hangovers now, and you've kind of equalized things with that bye week. And we'll see. We know Mauser, I asked him about the creativity and how much he prided himself on it, just taking play suggestions from anywhere, and as usually had a pretty colorful answer. They got stuff tucked away that they could deploy at any time, and I think you're going to need some trickery against this defense to produce some of those big plays, because Kansas State could not run the ball effectively at all down there. Jace Brown had made a big play for him, but I mean, that defense is legit, and I don't even know, even though it's been around, like what he mentioned, the genesis goes back, a couple decades at least. When most teams don't do it, as you said, Jake, that's novelty, and that's something you've got to adjust to, and it's hard to adjust to. So I think what looked like a quote-unquote easy win on paper with Arizona going 4-8 last year, what Iowa State did with the school record 11 wins, is going to be a tense one in the whiteout under the lights. Good weather in Ames, so it should be an entertaining one for sure for fans and the ESPN audience for sure.
Yeah, and I think the good news as well is, from what I watch and what I understand, is I think the defense is going to be a lot harder to prepare for if you're the offensive line, if you're the running backs. I still think the pass game, I'm not going to call it simple, because we've all played video games. It's not simple to be a quarterback in video games, let alone real life. But I'm going to guess that not a ton changes for Rocco. And that's, I guess, what gives me confidence that they're not really doing anything brand new deep with their corners, with their secondary. But again, if they're able to blow up the offensive line every play and speed up Rocco, that is the path to where Arizona wins. But I still think Iowa State should have an advantage when it comes to the tight ends and maybe hitting a couple deep balls to Brett Eskelson or Xavier Townsend.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think, and the way Tyler Moore emerged,
yeah, him too,
with Burkle out in the Arkansas State game, and we see he can make stuff intermediate, down the sideline, over the middle. I mean, you've got 3 legit tight ends at least right now who can stretch the field for you a little bit, and that ties into what Mauser said, even going out of 13 personnel at times, really being able to tax things. Xavier Townsend, career high 92 yards at Arkansas State, some big plays, great routes run as well. So we're starting to see that passing game really take form, and even if Arizona, which has been traditionally good against both this season, young season, clamps down on the run, I think there are big plays to be had, as you mentioned, for sure.
So we had this clip a couple weeks ago during the Cyhawk game of Gus Johnson sharing just a tremendous story about Taylor Mauser and his loyalty to Matt Campbell. If you haven't heard it, we're going to play it now. It's about 25 seconds, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what Taylor Mauser had to say about the clip.
So Mauser was dating the same girl. She came to Ames with him. And after 1 year, she said to Taylor, this isn't for me. It's either me or Iowa State. And Taylor said, I'm going with my bro. See you later.
I think she actually said it's either me or Campbell. And he goes, oh, okay, that's an easy one, Campbell, for sure.
Hey, bros before.
Bros before what, Gus?
Just a vintage Gus Johnson. And then this is the first time we talked to Mauser since that happened. So I asked Taylor Mauser about the story and a little something else. Coach, Fox shared the story during the Cyhawk game about you choosing Matt Campbell over an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
What?
I got some heat for that from my wife. That was fun.
Well, where does that loyalty come from, and is there any regret in that decision?
No, Coach, there's no regret. That's a good question. Coach Campbell was she's the best, and she gets it. And Coach Campbell, I applied and reached out to a million football coaches on all different levels, and Coach Campbell's the only guy that returned my call, that reached out to me, that said there was an opportunity to go there when nobody else would text me back, email me back, call me back, and really had no business doing it because I was a Division II defensive lineman, and I didn't have a relationship with him. There was no reason for him to trust me outside of just a hunch. So I never forget that. It doesn't matter what job I've had here, from intern to graduate assistant to recruiting to tight ends coach to offensive quality control. Like, it's all to pay him back and to pay the football team back for being one of the only people that gave me a chance. And to bring me here, like I said, I met my wife here. We have 2 incredible kids. Like, getting the relationships that I have, some of my best friends I get to work with here, some of my best friends I know here. So he changed the outlook of my life with just one return of a phone call, and I don't forget that ever for that guy.
Definitely some powerful words kind of through the jokes from Mauser on what Campbell means to him. I'm not going to say I was surprised by the answer, but it was just powerful when I heard that.
Jake, you talk about where that loyalty comes from. I wrote a story last week and I talked to Taylor about the 4 months he worked at Little Caesars after he graduated from Adams State College, where Mauser thought he might be stuck slinging pizza forever. That's such a trying time for a young coach, as he said, who had no Division I or Power 5 experience. And Matt Campbell was kind of the lifeline that came when he got a call from Toledo, and he said, "Hey, I'll be there on Monday." So I think Taylor Mauser feels like Matt Campbell gave him the one chance he needed, and he ran with it. And yeah, if I was thinking about my life as an offensive coordinator right now, with my wife and kids and just the great life he has now, versus work and register in Chandler, Arizona at a Little Caesars, man, I think I would think about Matt Campbell with a lot of loyalty myself.
So if they have those pizza poppers they're touting now, it's kind of like a different pop pass. You would have been doing the pizza poppers instead of the pop pass. But that's a great story. I mean, and you think about belief and trust is the bedrock of this program. And when for Mauser to powerfully explain that, again, an undersized defensive lineman from Division II, Adams College, no one's returning his call. And then Matt Campbell's like, hey, I'll give this guy a shot, right? I mean, I think it ties all the way back into when you go back and talk to Matt Campbell at the beginning. I think he's always said that his ambition was to be a high school teacher and a football coach. So it's all about football. It's all about relationships. It's all about impacting people's lives. And I know that sounds corny and it gets that way, but that's a pretty big impact on Taylor Mauser's life. And they need to tie into maybe to work his way up to manager one day down there in Chandler. But it's a far cry from being able to have fun with play calling in the Big 12, doing what you love. And I think that trickles down to everybody. It trickled down to Kyle Conrary last year, who hadn't done it in a game until the Iowa game. Maybe it trickles down to Chase Scott this week. I mean, that belief and that, I guess, hey, you're here, you're part of us, we believe in you no matter what. I think that's a pretty powerful thing and it's easy for people to say, but I think in practice at Iowa State, it's one of the big reasons they've had success. So really cool story, Ben, and funny story to start with that's obviously worked out very well for Taylor Mauser and Iowa State.
Yeah, it also makes me think, who is that next Taylor Mauser that's on staff right now? Who's the grad assistant that is doing all the dirty work right now that we don't see, that we don't know about? If Matt Campbell's here for another 10 years, who is that guy that builds his way up and turns into the next young coaching star? And I think that's all possible because of people like Taylor Mauser and people like Matt Campbell giving him a shot. And I think that's where, when you look back on the Matt Campbell era as a whole, just like Rob was saying, that's one of the pillars of it. It's the players, the coaches, the unexpected heroes that were given a shot, and then that loyalty. Like, look how many guys still come back and maybe don't even publicize it. You'll just see, oh, TJ Tampa's back at the game today, and it's not some massive social media post that TJ Tampa's back, or David Montgomery flying into the Big 12 championship. Like, there is a cult-like, in a good way, sense of loyalty towards Matt Campbell and this program. And I think, above all else, from the X's and O's and the guys that are playing in the NFL, it's that loyalty that's kind of the lifeblood of the program.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
So, Ben, we saved this for last. We did a really good podcast last night on Iowa Everywhere with Derek Duke. It was kind of a bonus bigger than 12, and then we brought in the Oklahoma State voice in the state of Iowa about the firing of Mike Gundy. We were all sitting together in the press conference when it happened. Taylor Mauser picked up Bill Seal's phone and was like, "Oh shit, Gundy got fired." Ben, your thoughts a day later, now that it's probably set in a little bit more.
I think we all thought just about that same thing, because it never felt like this day would come. You know, it did, because we saw what happened at Oregon, and we saw what happened against Tulsa at home. And with the context of going winless in the Big 12 last year, it did feel like Mike Gundy's days were numbered. But for that announcement to come on a Tuesday in the middle of the week, man, it just didn't feel like Mike Gundy, who's been at an alma mater for 21 years as a coach, and before that, the greatest years of Oklahoma State football were when Mike Gundy was quarterback. So it just didn't feel like he was getting his proper send-off, but maybe that's kind of the way that a Mike Gundy tenure should end. He's always been marching to the beat of his own drum. I don't really think he cares what a lot of people have to say. I'm sure he's spending today at his ranch, enjoying some time. He said he was, he's not going to have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning anymore. So just a wild day in the Big 12. Matt Campbell, we asked him about it. Matt said, man, it's a crazy time we live in, where a guy who's been at that school for so long can have a couple bad seasons in a row, and it really feels like people kind of turned on him. So I don't know exactly, what the end result here looks like. I'm sure it ends with Mike Gundy's name on the field and a statue outside of Boone Pickens Stadium. But right now, it feels like things have kind of gotten ugly.
Yeah, Ben, you had convinced me when we talked about Gundy's status a couple weeks ago, or last week, or whenever it was, that, I'll bet they do give him till the end of the season, because, again, you brought up all those double-digit win seasons and his history with the program and what he did for it. But I kept coming back to what I mentioned too, though, just the really bad look it was with that war of words with Lanning, and then to go and get beat the way they got beat. And I think sometimes when you're steeped in the culture and the lore, it can make you make it harder to see what maybe some of the people in other positions look at that and say, what does the outside world think about this? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what got him. I think that's why the timing was weird. I don't know. I go back to the acrimonious stuff that happened last season when they were talking about stuff, and he's saying, I'm going to do this, and they're saying, well, no, this is it. And then he's just kind of, as you said, he marches the beat of his own drum, and I would say that's to a fault, but when you have this discuss that he does, he's going to go out the way he goes out, and I don't think he'll have any regrets about it, as you said. What he did for Oklahoma State and for himself as a celebrated and successful coach warrants, being honored at that stadium. But it was sad, but also it felt like, to me, as somebody who's been an outsider looking at the program, somewhat appropriate the way that it ended based on the steps that had happened over the last couple of years. You see these shoes drop, and you see this national reaction, or you see this, vitriol kind of seemingly between the administration and him. And, sad deal, weird deal. But, I'd imagine that if they were having conversations that Mike Gundy wasn't just going, yeah. Mike Gundy speaking up for himself and not taking a backseat to anybody. And perhaps that's what leads to weird timing in it. But certainly an iconic Big 12 coach, Oklahoma State coach, but Big 12 college football coach in general, second longest tenured to Kirk Ferentz. And like you said, Ben, I'm sure he's sitting back and taking stock of the many successes he's had, and deservedly so.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. I don't think how it ends, like Ben said last night. I'd encourage you to go listen on Iowa Everywhere. I still don't think the ending will impact his legacy, even right now. Definitely not in the long term. Like, I think skip ahead 20 years. When you think about Mike Gundy and look back, it'll be nothing but the success. But even right now, I still think that more of the failures are chalked up to maybe institutional as a whole and the lack of donor support and all that. And Gundy, of course, plays a part in that by being so reluctant to adapt to the times as well. But I still think the 18 incredible years or the 20 incredible years will far outweigh the 2 down years. But it's not going to be weird. It's not going to be the same without him on the sidelines.
Totally. When you think of Michael Jordan, you don't think of the Wizards jersey.
No.
When you think of Peyton Manning, you don't think of the noodle arm, in Super
Final
Bowl
year.
50, winning that game. So I do think that Mike Gundy will be remembered with a mullet, for his crazy antics and press conferences, rather than the kind of dud in the last couple years.
Let me make one last comp to something that I was familiar with and steeped in, being from the state of Iowa. Hayden Fry resurrected an Iowa program that was nowhere for decades and decades and decades. By the end of the Hayden Fry era, he had not recruited worth a crap. They were bad football teams down the stretch, and he retired. A lot of fans, I can tell you, I was a pretty young guy at the time, really sour on Hayden Fry, despite the fact he'd done more for Iowa football than anybody, hands down. Nowadays, nobody talks about the last few years of Hayden Fry. Nobody talks about that. No, they talk about the icon he is. He's the legend, what he meant to the program. And I think this will be very much the case with Mike Gundy, too. Different situations, but I can tell you, again, growing up in the state, as revered as that guy was from a eastern side of the state and really a statewide perspective, people were really down on him at the end, and deservedly so when you can't win games and you don't have the talent. Nick Saban beat him once with Michigan State, and he said he had to take it easy on him. It was like an Oregon Oklahoma State type outcome. So, I think that's the comp, and that speaks to, yes, Gundy will be sooner rather than later remembered as the icon for that program that he was and is, for sure.
Yeah, you just hope that Gundy replicates that on his end, and it's a beef that's squashed in 5 years and not 25 years, because I know how much that would suck. Like if Dan McCarney, the way things ended, if Dan McCarney just grew completely sour on Iowa State for the rest of his life, and luckily that hasn't happened. He's about as powerful as a figure in the fan base as anybody. So for the fan base's sake down in Stillwater, I hope that things are mended sooner rather than later, even though I'd give it a couple years, just with the big personality of Gundy and I'm guessing how he operates.
Absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Well, I think that's another edition of the Beat Reporters. We're getting into the crossover season. It's not here yet, but we can see it in the distance. We've got Big 12 Media Days in 2 weeks, or not Big 12, Iowa State Basketball Media Days in 2 weeks, an exhibition game in a little over 3 weeks, so it's coming, and we're going to do our best to talk all things Cyclone football, Cyclone basketball, as we get into the thick of things in crossover season. Thank you to Kelderman Manufacturing for bringing us another episode of the Beat Reporters here in the Northwest Bank Studios.